Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Money Match, where we match up your money with your life goals. Today, we're going to be talking with a good friend of mine, Brandon Crump. He is an exceptional CrossFit coach, competitor, psychotherapist, husband, and father. And one of the things I really love about Brandon is he is somebody who truly strives for excellence in all of these areas. How did he become exceptional at all of these areas in his life? We'll dive in together today on Money Match. Today, I am so proud to be able to be joined with Brandon Crump. Brandon, you and I have been hanging out for a few years. You and I have not really been in the same circles recently, but how many years ago did we meet now?
Man, yeah, that's going back. Well, first of all, thanks for having me, man. I'm pumped to have a conversation with you, Ian. Anytime we can chat, I always walk away a better person, so I appreciate it. But I think it's man, probably like we've been married for 8, and so it's probably almost 10 years now.
Yeah, and to be clear,
Yeah.
we're not married.
No. Sorry, my wife and I are married.
Yes.
But I remember you have had a role in that and in my baptism as well. So that takes us back like 8 to 10 years ago. Yeah, man.
Yeah, back when I was pastoring and
Yep.
yeah, you were attending the church and I that I was
Yeah.
pastoring. And I remember even then being fascinated by your story
Hmm.
and who you are, who you were then as a person, and even today, you've kind of brought that tenfold in terms of um, who you've developed into as a quite a competent professional. So I'm wondering if we can go back in time a little bit and tell me a little bit about your roots. Tell me a little bit about your story, Brandon.
Yeah, for sure, man. I'd be honored to. Yeah, it depends how far back we want to go, but maybe I'll gloss over the first chapter, couple chapters of my life. But was raised as a pastor's kid most of my life, and kind of spiritual health, mental health, fitness, physical health. Obviously, were always very present in our household growing up.
Hmm.
So as I look back, it's no mistake kind of how I landed where I am. Um, but kind of on our timeline, yeah, when I met you, um, I was coaching as a strength and conditioning coach and competing as a competitive CrossFit athlete. And I think at the time was attempting to make the CrossFit Games. So if anybody doesn't know what that is, it's like not fitness aesthetics, it's fitness performance. So just really like to make that clear. I'm not standing on stage in a speedo, even though hey, if that's you, go for it. It's all good. But more on the performance side of things. So um, yeah, that took up most of my time. Eventually made the CrossFit Games twice. There were uh, some cool hope stories there. There was also some heartbreak stories there as well with the CrossFit um, kind of career, I guess if I call it that.
And just kind of
Yeah.
round that side of the story out. I'm just curious,
Hmm.
Brandon, like, did you have a kind of a national ranking, or would you have considered yourself like part of the, you know, one of the best in Canada, or where would you place yourself on a Canadian North American stage?
Yeah, that's a great question. It we got ranked year to year essentially. So at times, I believe I ended up um, within the top 5 in Canada when I was competing as an individual. This is going back to 2013 era, and then later on, as I competed with a team, we were I think the best in Canada. We were at times one of the only teams in Canada going to the CrossFit Games and representing Canada. So it was quite an honor, and just to be able to compete at that level and represent Canada as well. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, and being a professional athlete at the time, that from my understanding, like, that encapsulates a lot of your time. Fair?
Oh yeah, very much so. Like you're training, especially when I was competing as an individual, training probably 4 to 5 hours a day. And then when you're not training, you're focusing on recovering, whether it's sleep, nutrition, stress management, those kind of things as well. So it's a full-time job.
Wow.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then so you were a trainer in the world of CrossFit as well.
Yep.
I remember one of my most enjoyable memories of you is I was when I was pastoring, I was running a camp, or like it was a week long camp that the church threw for community kids, and so we had like 50 community kids all at this park, and we were doing a theme of like almost like the if you ever I know you've seen it, like Hans and Franz
Yeah.
SNL skit, and so
Classic.
like I was like, "Hello, I'm Janos," I was messing around, and so I was pretending to be strong. So I would have like I had this big sweatshirt I was wearing in the middle of the summer and shoving like things in my shirt to pretend that I had big muscles, and then you showed up and like you actually had strong muscles.
Well, I
And
appreciate it,
you were
man.
able to
Yeah.
show the kids like some really really cool stuff. That always
Yeah.
stands out in my mind. So fast forward the clock,
Yep.
you met this amazing woman who's tell me a little bit about this lady.
Yes. Yeah. My wife, Laura, it's kind of forbidden in the coaching world to start dating one of your athletes, but I did it anyways because I couldn't pass her up. She was a gem. So yeah, we started dating. We met at the gym. Obviously, we started dating, and yeah, she was one of my biggest cheerleaders, and just I'm so glad that I had the privilege of having her witness what I was going through at the time, um, and be just a solid support figure for me there. Whether
Yeah.
that's kind of anxiety management or even just getting nutrition and clothes ready, she was a game changer.
Wow.
Hmm.
And now you have two little ones, right?
We do, yeah, 4 and 1 now. Yeah, it's crazy,
Wow.
crazy, man.
It's and you talk about at the time of this recording, Father's Day just passed,
Yep.
and it's fatherhood is not for the faint of heart. I mean, it's
Man,
a whole challenge into itself.
it's harder than any workout I've ever done. I'll say that. And I've done some hard workouts. Yeah,
Fair enough.
yeah.
Um, so from that stage to now, you didn't just stop there. You
Mhm.
continued in your training in a different way. I'm wondering if you can tell me a little bit about that training and where it finds you today.
Yeah, for sure. So, I was continually, or I continued with my competing career, but professionally speaking, got heavily into coaching. Loved coaching athletes, and in doing so, um, a lot of patterns and themes started to emerge for me. And whether we're coaching somebody, maybe a young man struggling with depression, or maybe a mid 50s individual struggling with obesity, um, I could always tell them they knew what to do. It was never an issue of what they needed to do, but there was something deeper, something more meaningful that prevented them from actually doing what I was trying to coach them on. So that set me off on this big mission. It helped as well having a mom who is she studies psychology and is a social worker. So I kind of just gravitated in that direction. So I went back to school at this would have been age 28 at the time. Completed an undergrad in psychology, um, and that right away helped me in my coaching. But I wanted to kind of take it further and really evoke change in people's life, not just think that I'm kind of changing on the surface. So I ended up doing a master's in counseling psych, and I'm a registered psychotherapist today. Um, and Yeah, I have a big love, obviously, and bias towards fitness and movement, but just kind of seeing those worlds collide has been really cool for me. What fitness does for mental health and what mental health does for somebody struggling in the fitness world, knowing what to do but can't get that next step. So quite the journey. It's been a roller
It's a
coaster. Yeah.
really cool cross section that is, I think, very fairly unique because oftentimes you have schools of thought on one side and the other,
Yep.
and it's across discipline, but very
Hmm.
rarely do you find somebody who actually has like kind of some very significant allocations, or sorry, designations
Yep.
in that sphere of
Hmm.
both on the physical fitness side and on the mental health side. So
Hmm.
um, thanks for sharing your wisdom.
Yeah, my pleasure, man. Yeah, no, this is a great opportunity, and any chance I can have just to promote kind of both of my passions there, um, uh, I'm more than honored to talk about it. So thanks for having me, man. Maybe we'll just kind of mirror that right back. Like if you'd go back 8 to 10 years, like we've mentioned that you were a pastor already, but tell us about that time of your life. Um, who was Ian and what was happening at that moment?
Yeah, so if I go back maybe
Hmm.
a little bit further,
Hmm.
um, I remember being a young fellow in high school, just kind of enjoying life, going through kind of you know, what I'd call the typical high school years. I was never a bad kid, but
Hmm.
just trying to figure out what life had to offer, as most young people kind of go through. And I remember something that really was probably the most fundamental thing that has ever happened to me in my life is, at 16 years of age, I lost my mom, and it was sudden, it wasn't expected, and I remember just feeling, a sense of
Hmm.
loss, a sense of directionlessness.
Hmm.
I don't know if that's a technical term or not,
Hmm.
but
It
you
is
know,
now. Yeah.
and it was, I'm grateful that
Hmm.
you could call it a spiritual awakening, or um, a kind of an emotional awakening. I remember being signed up to go on this uh, missions trip, or if you're outside of the church, it was an opportunity to go with an NGO
Hmm.
overseas. And I'll be honest with you, I signed up because I heard that there was cool animals, and I was going to Botswana, Africa, to go on this experience.
Hmm.
And I went for this 6 week experience in Botswana, and with an organization that doesn't exist anymore. But I went, and I think if I was, going to sign up after the fact of my mom passing, it probably wouldn't have happened. But the fact is that it was paid for. I was signed up. I was ready to go, in the spring of 2000. And then my mom passed away at the end of May. And literally a month later, I got on a plane to go on this experience.
Wow. Wow.
And I
That's
think,
mhm.
yeah, I think if I was going and hanging out with a whole bunch of kids that were, into drugs,
Mhm.
I probably would have just jumped in.
Mhm. Oh
Um,
man.
but I was in this with a whole bunch of other teenagers who were,
Mhm.
really into this, you know, God church thing, and, sharing their faith really openly. And they were like all about caring for people that were needy, and
Mhm.
like trying, and they're doing these very hands-on projects with people that really didn't have very much.
Mhm.
And it was, I so desperately wanted to be in this place, as like, oh, woe is me. I'm so sorry for myself. Look at my
Mhm.
wounds. And yet I was like hanging out with people that I remember I was talking to somebody who was about my age at the time. And, both of their parents had died from the AIDS epidemic.
Wow.
And they were responsible for caring for their four younger siblings.
Wow.
And I remember just like it hitting me like
Mhm.
in my face, like, oh, like I have so much to be grateful for.
Mhm. Mhm.
And it really, I remember coming home, not, with a clear sense of, oh, I want to be a pastor. It was just, oh, I want to do whatever I can to help others. I want to
Mhm.
do, my reason of being really got crystallized there, of like, I want to be wherever I can to add value, period.
Mhm.
And so I went through some church, what they call church planting assessments. And so, I really ended up in Aurora, Ontario,
Mhm.
planting a church and loved it, enjoyed
Yeah.
it. I did it exactly almost to the day I was pastoring for 10 years, um,
Wow. Wow.
and really loved it.
Mhm.
And even
Mhm.
today, there's an element in which, I'm very passionate about
Mhm.
um, the church at large, and tying into that's, I don't try to hide who I am,
Mhm.
but I'm also thankful that I never ended up on the 6 o'clock news doing anything weird, because oftentimes when you hear about pastors leaving a church, oftentimes if it's not for retirement, it's like, oh, what
Mhm.
happened?
Mhm.
I'm
Yeah.
grateful that that wasn't a part of my story. The church
Yeah.
was so good to me.
Yeah.
The people that we broke bread with were and are still so amazing.
Mhm.
Um, but there was a couple of things that were kind of happening for me in the background. I think most people in my position, when they start getting itchy and asking the question, "What's next?" would
Mhm.
kind of go, "Okay, where are we going to plant a new church?"
Mhm.
And I was, at the time when I was starting to get itchy, kind of looking at, okay, what's next? Um, I've always had this hobby in the background of investing and business. I was kind of the first guy to the business section always. And, working in the NGO space and like in the
Mhm.
charitable sector, I was kind of always the guy that was kind of helping kind of give direction over finances. And that was always kind of
Mhm.
my bailiwick. I always really enjoyed that aspect of
Mhm.
charitable work. And so when it kind of came into an opportunity to kind of look at my father's business, who had been in the industry for 40 years, he was kind of sending these signals like he was going to sell his business or transition his business.
Mhm.
I saw an opportunity there, and so it was a tough transition, but I really kind of got excited about what it looked like to serve people, and really love on people in a different capacity. And
Mhm.
so oftentimes I'm still wearing that pastor hat.
I was going to
Um,
say, once a pastor, always a pastor. So,
totally a different construct, and and
yeah,
and
yeah,
but I was certainly trying to still be authentic of
for sure.
who I am as an
Mhm.
individual as well.
Yeah, absolutely, man. That's so cool. And I think it's so fitting as well because even the Bible talks a lot about finances and money. And as we'll get into later in the series, of just these are means in which we express our faith and our obedience to God. So it just goes hand in hand. So yeah, man, that's so cool. And there's other things you were building there as well. You want to mention that? Perhaps a family while you were
Yeah,
yeah.
true. Sorry, I would be amiss to say that, right out of university, I'm doing my undergrad. I, was engaged to this incredible girl I met at my church youth group, actually. So we were high school sweethearts. We waited until after we were done university and we got married. So my wife, Sarah, we've been married 20 years this year,
Wow.
which is really
Good for you,
cool.
man. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Marriage is not for the faint of heart, but it also comes with lots of blessings. And so, three of those blessings I have in the form of
Mhm.
three incredible kids. So, Mackenzie, Madison, and Malachi. I can't believe that I've got three teenagers at home.
Wow,
It's,
man. Wow.
raising kids. I always thought the diapers were hard. And then as they get older, it doesn't get easier. It just gets more complicated.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
But nevertheless, grateful for the journey.
Amazing, man. Wow. What a story. That's incredible, Ian. I love that.
So, Brandon,
Yep.
one of the things that I think has been a conversation on my mind, at least for the last couple of years, is wanting to have a conversation with you
Mhm.
um, about, health
Mhm.
and what it looks like to have really strong health.
Mhm.
And one of the things that's really cool about your story is that you're not just, a good-looking fellow, but you're somebody that has some expertise
Mhm.
in mental and physical health. You're an ex physical trainer, or maybe are you still licensed as a physical trainer?
I'm still licensed, yeah, but don't. Well, I dabble a little bit in the counseling, psychotherapy world, and where we express movement and things like that. But I wouldn't say officially as a coach. No. Yeah.
Yeah, and but you're also a licensed psychotherapist as well, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and so myself as a financial advisor and
Hmm.
wealth advisor, certainly those two. Um, I talk about financial health as well on a
Hmm.
regular basis, and it's interesting. I think we have a interesting cross section of spiritual health. It's not something
Hmm.
that you and I necessarily lead with on our business card,
Hmm.
but you have a bit of a background on spiritual health. What's that for
Hmm.
you?
Yeah, for sure. Like personally speaking, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure, man. Um, yeah, spiritual health. I think. Well, first of all, I think they all tie together, right? We want to see people through the biopsychosocial, spiritual lens, right? In financial, obviously, but the yeah, for me, spiritual health it it drives everything else. Um, there's a quote from Friedrich Nietzsche: "He who has a why can bear almost any how," and that kind of speaks to this. I think if we ground ourselves in our spiritual health, everything else flows from that, right? Our financial health, our mental health, emotional, physical. So just really being centered on our why and who we're becoming, not just what we want to do, but noting the character of a person, right?
Yeah, and
Hmm.
your upbringing certainly speaks to that. Your
Hmm.
mother is a social worker, and
Yep.
your father
Yeah.
was and is still a very well respected pastor as
Yep.
well.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So that was, I mean, I think back and obviously mental and emotional and those pillars were there. But mainly what was modeled to me was the spiritual health
Mhm.
practice, whether that's praying as a family or reading your Bibles or just getting your head right. So,
On the spiritual health side, I know
mhm,
the spiritual journey for me and faith was certainly a big part of
mhm,
my teen years and forward, and I certainly both from an experiential perspective and then professionally, like I have an undergrad and also a master's degree in theology, and so certainly
mhm,
that ties into as a practitioner of both as an ordained minister previously and then and
mhm.
now certainly spiritual health is a big part of my journey as well. So Brandon, it's so great to have, this conversation around all the aspects of health, both mental, physical, spiritual, and financial fitness, and what does it look like to I see health in all those areas. But I think you really bring not an exclusion of each other, but really a unique focus on physical health. And wondering if you can
Mhm,
speak to that. I know that you shared a little bit of your journey previously. I'm wondering if you can kind of talk
mhm,
to if you were kind of meeting me on the street, talk to me about why physical health is so important, and why is that something that needs to be a key
mhm.
pillar in somebody's life.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I would probably respond with um, it's important in and of itself, but it's also a medium in which we can express these principles and pillars that help us all throughout our life. So when I was coaching, oftentimes I would say to clients of, I know this is just just working out, but this is so much more than that. When we really stop and look at what's happening here, um, principles of discipline, uh, of resiliency, integrity, being able to push through hard times, right? So all these things, I think it's just uh, gives us a training ground for life, and obviously, it's going to have tremendous impact for mental, emotional regulation, better relationships, better neurochemistry, uh, better health for our physiological selves, right? So that's obviously a given. But there's so much overlap here as well.
I know one of the things that I oftentimes struggle with, to be candid, was like I
Hmm.
feel like time is such a premium. So I'm
Hmm.
constantly being
Hmm.
pulled in different directions. Like there's no
Hmm.
shortage of phone calls or emails to respond to ever,
Hmm. Yep.
professionally speaking. And then
Yep.
on the flip side of it is there's no shortage of things that I could be doing on the home front, or
Hmm.
whether you call it the honey-do list, or
Hmm.
trying to support my kids with this or this, or my spouse with this or this, right? So it's
Hmm.
like there's always somebody that needs something from you.
For
and,
sure.
and so to make time for physical fitness,
Hmm.
I when your brain plays tricks on you, you can almost
Yeah.
feel like you're being guilty.
Yes. Yes.
Like I'm being
Hmm.
selfish. I'm wondering
Hmm.
if you can challenge that for me a bit.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's what I was hearing there. Kind of this assumption that if I'm not doing these things that you've listed, that's going to be lesser than, or I'm being selfish if I work out. Um, and that's where I maybe just offering a little bit of a reframe on that. That this act, number one, it doesn't have to take a lot of time. I think we overcomplicate it in our heads. We can really simplify this. Street Parking is a company in the world of fitness, and they have a cool quote that's just more than nothing. So it can literally be 10 minutes, and it doesn't have to be in a gym setting. It can be in your backyard while you're playing with the kids, but it's just getting that movement in.
Everybody talks about fitness as being important. I think, if you're not actively engaged in fitness, there's this level of shame, like, oh man, I should be more involved in fitness. And then it's like this self-perpetuating shame. But I'm wondering if you can kind of maybe articulate a reason why. Like, can you tell us a story about one of your clients or somebody that you've worked with in the past where you've seen
Mhm.
fitness really be impactful in their life?
Oh yeah, certainly, man. And there's so many, so I could get into a number of these, but I'll pick one for simplicity. Um, but yeah, I was working with an individual, a young man, very successful. He was a lawyer at the time, and going through a lot of grief in his own life and a lot of emotional struggles. And fitness, I mean, it not only grounded him, but it also gave him something to wake up for. He was also battling some addiction, alcohol addiction at the time, unfortunately. So the role that physical health and fitness played for him, um, I think just looking at him literally was a lifesaver. And it wasn't just, hey, I'm trying to do this to be fit and get more Instagram followers, right? It's not how, at least in a meaningful way.
Instagram is not a motivator for you?
Well,
Man,
maybe I'm aging myself a little bit, but yeah, for some people it might be, but no, it definitely was just a source. It was a lifeline for him, right? It was just someone throwing him a raft, life jacket in this crazy sea of life, and just grounded him. And I mean, he's just absolutely crushing it now. Very happy, has a family, and doing much better. But that was all because he was grounded in this practice of fitness.
I thank you for the story, because I mean I think it's
Hmm.
articulative of so many people's fitness journey of, like, it's
Hmm.
not just, oh, it's because I want to have better abs.
Hmm.
Uh,
Exactly.
it's truly like a
Hmm.
lifestyle. My
Hmm.
brother, who's also very successful in the financial services industry,
Hmm.
um, he always tells me, Ian, if your best client called you up and said, I need to meet with you at 6 a.m. tomorrow morning, what would you do? I'd say, I'll be there.
Hmm.
And he says, you're your best client. Get in the
Mm.
gym.
I love that. I love that. Yep. That's so great, man. And it is so true, right? Like it kind of going back to when we're talking about busyness of dads or parents and families. Um, it is, if we can reframe that, this is putting yourself first makes you a better parent. It makes you a better boss, a better employee, uh, a better husband or wife. It increases your capacity to handle stress in all of the roles that you have. So I know on the surface it might appear to be selfish, but it's really not. Like it's really a net positive for not only yourself, but everybody around you. So I think something to just remember.
So what I hear you saying is the next time I feel shame
Hmm.
for taking time out to go on a workout or go for a run,
Hmm.
what I need to is say to myself is this is a selfless act.
Hmm.
Yeah,
For sure.
it's a
Absolutely, man.
selfless act to take care of myself so I can take care of others. It almost sounds like
Absolutely.
the
Hmm.
oxygen mask analogy, right? Of
That's it. Yep.
the oxygen mask drop in the airplane, and what do they
Hmm.
always say?
Yeah, put it on first yourself, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, so you can help others. I mean, I think with anything here, as we get into the series, everything. I could also speak to the flip side where people perhaps spend way too much time in the gym and it becomes like this addictive place, right? Similar with finances. So I think we are just um, we have to find that right balance, right? What's the wellness optimal part of whether it's fitness or financial focus? And if you're spending 3 hours a day in the gym, is that selfish? Well, probably, right? If you have a family and other duties. But if you're spending half an hour, 40 minutes, 60 minutes, I mean, that's very reasonable. And it makes you a better role for all the roles that you have. So something to keep in mind.
If you're somebody who's maybe not as active as they should be or want to be,
Hmm.
what would you give them as, just a tangible, what would you give me or any other
Hmm.
listener
Yeah.
as a tangible, one, two, or three thoughts of like, where should we start?
For sure, man. Well, I'm going to drop some knowledge bombs on you here, if that's okay.
Okay, hit me.
Because I'm going to tell you the best fitness program in the world. It's going to blow your mind here, Ian. The best fitness program in the world is the one that you're willing to do. Doesn't it doesn't matter, right? So I think part of that is just finding what works for you, right? Like if
Wow.
F45 works for you, great. If CrossFit works for you, awesome. If going for walks works for you, amazing. Find something, dragon boating, whatever it is, right? Just moving your body and finding what that passion is for you. Um, but if I had to narrow one thing down, especially as a mental health advocate, I would say walk. Just go for a walk. It's going to make everything better. It's just after dinner, in the morning, a couple times a day. Wear a step
I
counter
see
if you want.
people walking
Mhm.
past my office or, my house like this with a cell phone while they walk.
Yeah,
Is that what you're recommending?
absolutely not. No, for sure. And I'll quarterback on Dr. Andrew Huberman's kind of what he prescribes for people. But it's, yeah, get out in the morning. AM is better. Um, don't wear glasses. Don't wear sunglasses. You want to take in the light around you. That's going to help circadian rhythm and sleeping later on in the day. Um, and if anything, like go with a friend. There you have community. Now you have something to talk about.
Mm.
Get off your screen. It is vital. I can get into a whole hour on screens, but I won't. Um, yeah.
I noticed just anecdotally, I noticed like I used to like I've got a dog at home and so I take the dog around the block and I used to be like using the opportunity to check up on my emails and texts and stuff and now
Hmm.
I've intentionally like when I usually go for a walk in the morning first thing and then usually a late night walk
Hmm.
um, for the dog's sake it's a good excuse to go around the block
Hmm.
and I've intentionally started not taking my cell phone simply so I don't have that
Yeah.
temptation. And it's
Yeah.
interesting. Like I find like, it gives me an opportunity to breathe deeper
Hmm.
and kind of experience my surroundings in a more rich way. And I feel
Yeah.
more relaxed when I get home.
Yeah. I love that, man. Yeah. That's even better, right? Leave the phone at home. Um, yeah, man, just get out there. And I think it's such a crutch for people, right? Just looking at screens all day. I think a big part of this and what I see in my practice is, especially in the online space for fitness, it's like discipline. You need discipline over motivation, and they're kind of drawing this line, which is true, right? Obviously, we need discipline because times we're not going to feel motivated, and we need to have that discipline to do things. But nobody really mentions how to be disciplined, and it bothers me because it comes back to kind of when I was a coach. It's like, yeah, I know I need to be disciplined, but like now what? Next tips. So what I'd say to those people is, and I would write this on the whiteboard if I was with somebody, momentum is greater than motivation. Um,
Momentum is greater than motivation.
yes, momentum is greater than motivation. And what we mean by that is, um, we want to break things down into small tasks. And by maybe even just, let's say, going for a run would be maybe a goal. If I don't feel like going for a run, yeah, great, me neither, right? What's the smallest step we can do? Okay, well, you know what? I'm going to put my shorts on and wear them on this Saturday. So when I feel like going for a run, then I'll be ready for a run. Okay, great. That's step one. Step two, well, you know what? Maybe I'll just go sit on the porch outside and put my running shoes on. Okay, great. Right. And by achieving these small steps, we're actually creating the motivational sequence in our brain that gives us the dopamine to continue to pursue that action. So it's a means of creating our own motivation, um, through momentum, not just being like, oh, just try harder, discipline. You suck if you're not disciplined, right? Um, I don't know if that
Atomic
makes sense.
Habits, which is a really well-known book,
For sure.
talks
Yeah.
exactly about that type of, you
Yeah.
know, that I forget how they called it, but there's kind of like
Mhm.
that momentum as you
That's right.
described.
Yeah, absolutely. And even just to quarterback on that, James Clear, the author of Atomic Habits, um, he preaches, join an environment where the desired behavior is the norm as well,
Mhm.
right? So joining a running club or a fitness group, or be accountable to another, um, few people in your life that will help you in those fitness goals, right? So, um, yeah, very, very important to remember that.
Sign me up, man.
Yeah.
Sign me up.
Hey, man. Hey, dude, we run I'll put a little plug here for anybody listening in the Stouffville area. We do run a fitness. It's free, but it's a fitness for dads, young dads, or aging dads. Um, Free fitness Saturday morning, 6 a.m. We all get out there, throw down. So you're more than welcome to come, Ian. I would be awesome.
Okay.
We run you through a workout. We do a little talk, and then we go about our day.
Amazing.
Yeah, man.
Amazing. Well, thanks, Brandon, for the invite, and thank you very much for the insight. So, Brandon, talk to me about mental health in the sense that, like, obviously, it's a big part of who you are. But there's also still a stigma, I think, a little bit. Like,
Mhm.
do you find like are those stigmas coming down? How common is it for people to be talking to a therapist on a regular basis?
Yeah, yeah, it's a great question. I think, generally speaking, some of the stigma is coming down. There's been a lot of promotion of mental health and Bell Let's Talk and a bunch of other pitches there just to increase that. Um, However, I would say it's still quite present. Just to, it the stigma is it's pretty rigid in our society, right? And I think it is getting more common in how I interact with other people that maybe aren't part of the clinic that I'm working with. That they kind of tell me that they're seeking out therapy, but there is quite a stigma there of um, talking about things equals weakness, and that's simply not the case. And if I could even offer a reframing, it, what I say to my clients is, if we were to take two situations and have you in one suppress and just pretend that everything's fine, and then the other come in here and talk to me about these difficult things, right? um, Not talking about things is so much easier.
Hmm.
And I think we have to remember that it's a form of courage, right? Coming in. So we say, like, what produces more strength? What is better character building? um, for sure, coming in and talking about it makes you way tougher. So simply by talking to somebody doesn't equal weakness. I think suppression and pretending things don't exist equals weakness, in my opinion.
It's interesting you say
Mhm.
that. You know, I'm quite willing to share. I see a psychotherapist,
Yep.
once in a while.
Hmm.
Really as a check in, and just as a good
Hmm.
balancing thing. And I don't think it's because I'm in an exigent. I don't think it
Existential. Hmm.
Thank you.
Yep.
I don't think it's that I'm in a crisis mode all the
Right.
time, or
Hmm.
that I have, my wheels are falling off on the
Totally.
bus, so to speak.
Hmm.
For me, I just find it's a really, really healthy place for me to
Hmm.
be able to do a pulse check
For
and
sure.
make sure
Yeah.
that I'm moving in the right direction. But it's funny for somebody who talks for a living.
Hmm.
Um, in my past career and in my current career, I hate it. Although I see the value in it, I hate it. I don't like talking about myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think as guys, in
Hmm.
particular, and I'm not minimizing the effort that it is for a female, but
Hmm.
as a guy,
Hmm.
um, I like to be in fix it mode. I don't want to talk
For
about my
sure.
issues.
For sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think this was you, maybe back in the day, one of your sermons, playing the nail on the head video. And if you haven't seen that, definitely go check that out on YouTube.
Yeah, go to
Um,
YouTube, nail and head video. Yeah, I love that
yeah,
one.
yeah, and it's funny because I show that to clients or couples that I'm working with, and I ask them, "Oh, which one's right?" And they all look and they start arguing. They go back and forth, and then I kind of kindly come in at the end, guys. They're both right. There's a time and place to be in fix it mode, and there's a time and place to be validating and understanding one's emotions and what's happening in oneself. Because if you don't know yourself, you're going to be subjected to the unconscious bias that's going to be undoubtedly there, right? Whether that's from childhood or through events in your life. Some of those things might, like, are you scared of rejection, right? That's going to influence how you go about relationships, managing finances, people pleasing, right? Is another. Um, is there abandonment kind of issues in your life? Does that influence all these roles that you hold? Are you overreactive to conflict, right? Can you get along well with others, or even kind of on a higher level, perfectionism, right? So all these things prevent us from being kind of, I don't like using this line, but quote, the best self, um, and allowing us to really flourish.
So
Yeah.
I'm wondering, do you have any story that you might be able to share
Mhm.
with us about how you've seen somebody's mental health journey really create fruit for them?
Oh, so many again. But for sake of time, I'll limit it to one. But yes, a young man that I was seeing. In fact, I coached him quite earlier in my life, and then he kind of came back and was seeking counseling services at the time. Um, without getting kind of too personal, but we did a lot of really good work. Looked at implicit biases that was happening, emotional wounds and attachment wounds that were there, dealt with anxiety, depression, and so much so that this individual went from being maybe a little bit more of an isolated individual, didn't want to get out there and date, didn't want to take chances in his career. Very, I call it, I call it an apathetic coma that people get stuck in. So he was very much in this apathetic coma, and fast forward, I guess 3 years now. He's engaged. He met somebody, was dating. He's engaged. He's about to get married, start a family. He did a massive career change. He's in the career that he wants and building up experience there.
Awesome.
And even on a day to day level, like way more joy, being able to get out and be fit and celebrate his fitness as well. So
Uh,
yeah, that's one of many, but pretty cool.
that's amazing, and obviously we're talking about that in isolation, but
Yep.
you get to play that role as a therapist, like
Mhm.
essentially as a cheerleader, and it's really cool
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
hear you share that story. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, my pleasure, man.
I'm
Yep.
thinking about this in a practical level
Mhm.
that if you're anybody, I mean anybody, do you
Mhm.
think like anybody could have benefits or like of checking in with a therapist once in a while? Is that
Yeah.
something that would be recommended to the average Joe, so to speak, or Jill,
Yeah.
so to speak?
Yeah, for sure. And I think it comes down to personal bias there. If you enjoy that kind of thing, I think it's very there are a lot of benefits even for myself. I see myself as more in a maintenance stage, and we want, especially as the healthcare field as a whole, we want more preventative care. So yeah, definitely seeing somebody regularly, I think, is very healthy. It doesn't have to be, oh, I'm broken, to the point where you go and call somebody and, let's catch it way before. Let's have somebody in your corner, and you can't see what you can't see, right? And I think that's a very important part in just reminding people. Yeah, maybe everything's going well, but like maybe there's some things that you're not even observing, right? So,
Yeah, you're hitting on something that I think is so important
mhm,
here. I want to get
mhm.
into some practical applications, but before
Yeah,
we
for
go
sure.
into that, I'm wondering if we can dive into something here, Brandon, about
Hmm.
when should somebody, is there some indicators, when should somebody seek professional help? Like,
Hmm.
what would you see if somebody was sharing their story that you go, wow, yeah, like you need to get some support immediately? What would that look
Hmm.
like?
Yeah. Well, number one, again, I'm biased here, but I would say, anybody and everybody right now to establish a relationship with a therapist, maybe even seeing them once or twice a year, um, so that you can prevent kind of getting into those trenches, but also having an established relationship with somebody. If something were to come up, you don't have to waste time doing an intake and assessment and all these things. You're just right in there, applying coping strategies and tools. But to answer your question more directly, I think, um, when day to day function, um, is struggling, when we can no longer cope, it's one thing to feel anxiety and to still show up to work and function, and I understand that's not fun, but really there's a red flag there if there's too much uh, distress that it really prevents somebody from living their life. I would say, yeah, you definitely got to seek some help, and there's plenty of resources out there.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And if you were to like, I mean, I think I can think of a few resources, but if you
Hmm.
were in full on distress mode,
Hmm.
what would be the easiest thing you could do? Like, is there a phone number that
Hmm.
somebody should phone, or like, assuming that we're recording
Yep.
this in Ontario,
Hmm.
but so
Hmm.
I'll use Ontario as the
Hmm.
basis. If you're here in Ontario, what could somebody do if they're
Hmm.
in distress?
Yeah. Well, I think probably, there's a bunch of different helplines out there, and maybe we could even link a couple in the YouTube here. But I would say if it's a high level of distress and bridging on the point of some dangerous things might be happening, definitely just go to Emerge. They have a full staff of social workers there. It will expedite things so that you could meet with a social worker, psychiatrist if you needed it. There is ample mental health resources there, and once maybe the crisis is navigated successfully, they can refer out to a psychotherapist or psychologist that would help you thereafter. So,
And I believe that
mhm,
like 310 Cope and Cam H down in
for
Toronto
sure, for
are
sure,
certainly other like options, right?
absolutely, yep.
Okay.
And countless helplines there, suicidal hotlines. Yep, there's a lot of good.
Thanks, Brandon, for that.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I'm wondering if we can flip into, so I'm making the assumption now we're not in crisis mode
Hmm.
and we're just thinking about mental health and mental
Hmm.
well-being.
Hmm.
What are some kind of tangible tips and tricks that right now after the end of the we listen to this call
Yeah,
somebody could do to help improve their mental health?
yeah, for sure. I would say number one, just get used to stopping and reflecting, right? When I teach clients some CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, coping skills, we have this line: we want to look at our thoughts, not from our thoughts, right? Just because we have a thought doesn't mean it's true. So almost kind of having this third person perspective. So learning to observe yourself, I think, is a very good skill. And we can do that through like journaling, right? How do you observe your thoughts and your emotions? It's like get them out of your head and write them down. And it doesn't have to be like dear diary, blah, blah, blah. Like make it impactful. Hey, like I have this gut response happening right now. I don't know. Or maybe there's this dilemma that's ongoing. Should I pull my money from the market? Everything's going crazy, right? But processing those emotions are going to be so helpful. So journaling, a great one. I would say, um, highlighting your values is also an incredibly important um, skill that people overlook. And then creating goals aligned with those values, right? So not just a goal for the sake of having a goal because it sounds good, but who do you want to become, and how does that shape what you're going to do? Um, so I think that would be very helpful. We've talked in the previous episodes here of going for walks and physical things. That's going to have tremendous um, uh, help there for mental health. And then some of the other low hanging fruit, right? Sleep, so vital for mental functioning. Good relationships, good nutrition. Um, yeah, all these things are going to be really, really beneficial. There's a lot of self help books out there as well. That would be also a good resource.
I still remember as a kid, and it really sticks with me. My dad would put statements on his mirror in the bathroom,
Hmm.
and he would state those positive affirmation statements to himself out loud.
Hmm.
And I remember as a little kid walking into the bathroom and
Hmm.
hearing him, like as he's shaving, making these weird, bizarre statements. But I
Yeah.
get it now. Like
Hmm.
I get it, and it's like a positive statement of
Hmm.
affirmation.
Hmm.
It's amazing, and it has a very powerful effect
Hmm.
of your state of mind as it goes through the rest of the day.
For sure. And the therapist in me wants to jump in there as well and just offer a glimpse. Yes, positive is awesome. Again, like you said, everything in moderation. We don't want a toxic positivity, right? So coming back into this balanced place, and that's something that we kind of align our clients. What's the balance perspective here, right? Because man, life's hard. Life is, and I haven't met anyone that's like, yeah, I could use some more difficulty in life. People don't say that. It's very challenging, and we want to um, simultaneously validate and be able to say it's okay to not be okay, and invalidate that things are tough. People pass away. Um, People go bankrupt. There's really hard, tragic things that happen, but that doesn't mean we can't also see the lens of what's good in this world too, in finding that gratitude and contentment. So coming back to that balanced perspective.
So good to be with you, Brandon, talking about our conversation around mental health, spiritual health, physical health, and financial health, and how all those disciplines have such an connected piece of the equation for all of us individually.
Hmm.
And so, Brandon, one of the things I've really appreciated you is like having your insights as a physical trainer and also as a licensed psychotherapist. I'm wondering if we can switch to talking a little bit more about financial health.
Yes,
And so
sir.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
jump into the hot seat and let you kind of maybe poke and prod me a bit. Not that I meant kind of trying to be an expert, but certainly would love to maybe share a few pearls of wisdom.
Yeah, no, I love that, man. And I can talk all day, fitness and mental, but when it comes to financial, I am still learning. So I'm looking forward to picking your brain a little bit here. Um, so yeah, maybe let's start there of just like, eh, what would a positive financial mindset look like? What is the pinnacle of maybe financial health? Just maybe define that or outline that. Like, where are we looking to go?
Yeah, you know, s- great question, and it's so unique for every individual.
Hmm.
If you sit down with 100 people, you're going to get 100 different answers in
Hmm.
terms of their goals and objectives. But I would say there's certainly a similarity around a sense of peace.
Hmm.
I literally have clients that have, a a very bleak financial picture where they're struggling big
Hmm.
time. And then I have other clients that have, I'm not exaggerating when I say over $100 million of net worth. And,
Hmm.
you have, this massive extremes of net worth. And when you hear them dialogue, it's very similar.
Hmm.
It's like, how do I have sense of peace and purpose,
Hmm.
and because when your financial life is out of sync, it can be incredibly stressful.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I don't think that there's ever a time and place where somebody says, "Oh, I have enough." It's more, when some people don't have enough, it's very stressful because they have to pay bills and they don't know how to do that. And then
Yeah.
when they have too much, sorry, not too much, but when they have more, it creates all this other stress. Like, oh
Hmm.
man, like how do I make sure that I'm supporting my kids with this, or how do I, and everybody wants a piece of their time and
Yeah.
piece of those resources, and so and then they work really hard at it, and the government wants to take huge portions of that
Hmm.
through taxation, and how do they manage that from a giving standpoint, and what I call, they use this word, stewardship. Stewardship is such a key principle, and again, how do you be a wise steward of your resources really comes down to a very individualistic goal of
Hmm.
what does it mean to have peace as it relates to your money.
I love that. That's such a cool theme, just to see that as a common thread throughout, whether it's maybe you're very wealthy or maybe you're struggling and trying to build your wealth. We all want that sense of peace. Talk to me a
Yeah.
little bit about, like, how does,
And maybe I'll just
yeah,
add
sorry, go for
quickly
it.
there,
Yep.
Brandon. It's interesting. One of, and you could probably speak to this better as a
Hmm.
psychotherapist, but one of the biggest pressure points within a marriage, I've certainly identified, is finances. Like,
Yes.
it's not maybe the only, but it's certainly, up there in the
Yep.
top five, or maybe even top two or three
Yep.
major stress points within a marriage that oftentimes leads to significant breakdown
Yeah.
in it, around oftentimes the use and control of money.
Absolutely. I totally agree. Yeah. Up there with how do we want kids? How are we going to conduct ourselves and raise our kids or family? And maybe that's through the lens of faith, but also the money conversation is so important.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Well, talk to me. I think that segues nicely into, like, there's maybe the opposite of peace is kind of like this chaos, stress. But why do people avoid finances? And is there like this shame or self worth that's tied to it sometimes that you see in your work?
Yeah, you know, I think um, there's this constant battle between the urgent and the important
Mm,
in anybody's life.
love it.
The urgent is, oh, my kid calls me and they're crying, or your spouse is, in desperate need of this, or hey, there's no groceries in the fridge. Somebody needs to go grocery
Yeah.
shopping.
Hmm.
There's so many things to suck our energy.
Hmm.
And not to say they're necessarily bad things, they're urgent things.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, it's important. Um, an important thing is to take your spouse out on a date once in a while,
Hmm.
right? If you go through a marriage without ever having any intentional time one on one with your spouse, I don't care who you are, that relationship is going to experience, stress.
Hmm.
Your financial picture is the same.
Hmm.
It's not necessarily always urgent, but it's really important that one figures out how to um, kind of focus in on those areas. And it's very interesting. I think I always kind of give people the benefit of the doubt. Um, I deal with really, really intelligent people. And one of the challenges when you become of a reasonable intelligence is that you get embarrassed about the things you don't know,
Hmm.
right? So you could be a lawyer, accountant, a doctor. Um, you could be a school teacher, or you fill in the blank.
Hmm.
You could be a professional, and you become really good at this box. I've even oftentimes heard it like, well, I'm not really um, all that involved. I'm just a mom. Man, like if you're a parent at home, you're an expert. You know everything about there is to know about what your kids like or dislike. You know
Hmm.
everything about what it is involved to get your kid from point A to point B. You are an expert, and you have one
Hmm.
of the hardest jobs out there, right? So
Oh,
I,
very
I'm
much
not,
so.
there's so many. important roles out there, and so I'm dealing with very intelligent people,
Hmm.
and there's this shame factor around what they don't know.
Hmm.
And when it comes to finances, it's like this black box of what they don't know. I'm
Hmm.
quite proud to be able to say that I have 11 accountants as clients.
Wow,
Uh,
that's
and
amazing.
it, and it's because I think it's not that they don't know that they're financial professionals.
Yes.
Um, but there is a cross section where you need to have, financial acumen, a
Hmm.
little bit of base knowledge, and then you combine it with what's happening in the marketplace, and you can't be an expert at all things at all the time.
Yep.
And so, how do you know enough or educate yourself enough so that you can make wise, intelligent decisions about how you're managing your money? And
Hmm.
and and there's some practical steps that I might get into a little bit
Yeah.
later, but I think
Yeah.
there's a lot of value in recognizing that there should be no shame. There's no bad questions.
Hmm.
There's only good questions when it comes to just trying to understand,
Yeah.
where it is that you stand today,
Hmm.
and understanding a goal of where you want to go, creating a hope or a future of where
Hmm.
you want to go.
I love that. Yeah. And just as you saying that, just like the difference between knowing and doing and the emotions that lie in between and helping people navigate that. That's so cool. Um,
A question that I often ask
yeah.
clients in one of our first meetings is, um, what needs to happen between now and 5 or 10 years from now when we're having a coffee together or having a meal together? What needs to happen between now and then for you to feel really good about your finances?
Hmm. I love that.
And helping people get a vision for that
Hmm.
is very, very powerful.
Yeah, I love that, and it's tapping into the emotional side, not just intellectually what I want, but it's like what's that going to feel like when I'm there to have that peace. And man, that's really cool. Um, so maybe before we get into some tips, is there any stories that you'd want to share that would be encouraging for the listener here of just, hey, but I've never done any of this. I don't know where to start. Um, what would be an encouraging story that you could bring?
Yeah, great question, Brandon. I think I maybe tap my own journey a little bit in the sense that
Mhm.
there was a book that I got recommended to me early on. I was in university, so kind of 20 years old when I read it. It was an older book now called Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Robert Kawasaki.
Yeah,
Yeah, love it.
you know, great book,
Hmm.
great book, and it's it's kind of the paradigm shift away from less about how wealthy you are, and really changing a mindset of recognizing the value of the money that we have today,
Hmm.
and how do we get that money effectively working for us.
Hmm.
How do we get that wealth actually generating wealth for us, not
Hmm.
just in an active way, but in a passive way. So going to a
Hmm.
workplace
Hmm.
and, jumping on a jackhammer, or, slaving away, doing whatever the career might be, as noble and as wonderful as it might be, how do you also have a passive investment strategy where it's not necessarily eating into your daily living activity, but it's kind of a methodical way of building wealth
Hmm.
over here on the side,
Hmm.
so that you're eventually able to match, um, or surpass even your current income that you're creating from your work.
I love that. Yeah, that
Um,
reminds me of sorry, just to jump in there. It reminds me
yeah.
of I think this is such a cool point because it integrates everything we've been talking about, right? Mental, physical, financial, spiritual. And I'm reminded of James Clear's line of we don't rise to the level of our intentions, we fall to the level of our systems. And what
Mhm.
systems, strategies, and plans do you have in place? And I think that's exactly what you're saying. So that's very cool, man.
Yeah, it's just it's creating systems, right?
Mm-hmm.
And starting small, like, oftentimes people will say, "Oh, I'm in my 30s, or I'm in my 40s, or I'm in my 50s, and I haven't really done anything."
Mm-hmm.
Okay, no worries.
Mm-hmm.
Where do we start,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Absolutely.
starting and coming up with a plan, a coherent plan of,
Mm-hmm.
hey, this is where we want to get to. So, what needs to happen between here and here in order
Mm-hmm.
to for us to get to that desired outcome.
Yeah. Yeah.
It,
Yeah.
it's we're able to systematize it,
Mm-hmm.
and it's pretty cool when people start to kind of really grab hold of that plan and kind of go,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I'm excited, and they start living out that methodology. And it's
Mm-hmm.
really cool to be able to say to clients different ages and stages, because it really happens at different stages. I've
Mm-hmm.
been able to say to clients, hey, I want you to know that you're working because you want to, not because
Mm-hmm.
you need to.
Mm-hmm.
And having that pendulum shift in their mind of like, wow,
Yeah.
like I'm doing my job because I like it. I
Mm-hmm.
like adding value in whatever capacity I am,
Mm-hmm.
versus I'm doing my job because I need a paycheck.
Right.
Totally radically different
Yeah.
frame of reference.
Regardless of age or experience, this can be for everybody. Um, what would be kind of 2 to 3 core habits or things like that that you could maybe help people start that path?
So I'm maybe going to go down a bunny trail a little bit here, but
Mm-hmm.
I am actually not anti Wealth Simple or anti
Mm-hmm.
Quest Trade or any other self-directed model out there. I actually think they're awesome, because what it's doing is it's holding accountable the financial services industry for any fee that they charge.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's great.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not anti
Awesome.
self-directed funds.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, there are some statistics out there that certainly um, layer on the side of what I'd call active financial advice.
Mm-hmm.
Because oftentimes when somebody has a professional sitting in their corner giving active advice, I'm not talking about somebody you never talked to collecting a
Mm-hmm.
fee. I'm talking about somebody who is actively managing things for you, with you, coaching you through things.
Mm-hmm.
um, Oftentimes those individuals who are seeking advice on an annual basis, or even biannual basis, and getting ongoing coaching from a financial standpoint, oftentimes end up significantly more wealthy.
Mm-hmm.
And because oftentimes it's not just about what is one's return or what is the fee. It's
Mm-hmm.
about what is the net result based on sometimes moving the sand around a table. It's,
Yeah.
hey, if we just, structure somebody's cash flow this way by doing it this way,
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes somebody can see, significantly more money in their pocket simply because of the way they're being taxed, or simply by the way
Mm.
they're kind of saving for their retirement or whatever
Yeah.
those goals might be.
Yeah.
And so really, I'm not trying to kind of push somebody towards one direction or another. It's more
Mm-hmm.
just saying, hey, what does it look like to really take your financial world seriously?
Mm-hmm.
If you have a professional doing this for you, I would argue if you're paying for a financial advice, they should be helping you walk through your net worth every year. What is your
Yep.
net worth?
Yeah. Yep.
Um, Writing it out on paper, helping you
Mm-hmm.
recognize where do you want to be next year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and giving them advice they might not have anything to do with your real estate, for example, but hey, having that recorded on one page, and
Yeah.
and being able to create synergy between you and your partner,
Mm-hmm.
and having a dialogue about that, and feeling excited about where you're going.
Mm-hmm.
And so having a what I call a an annual general meeting of your finances, of saying, okay, hey, this is where we were last year, this is where we are
Yeah.
today, and this is where we're going.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
I love
Um,
that.
and then, tied into that, saving on a regular basis,
Mm-hmm.
rhythms of
Mm.
savings.
Okay.
Um, So that if somebody's kind of carrying too much debt, maybe the savings means, how are we paying down debt
Hmm.
every month as opposed to going deeper into debt? So how do we
Hmm.
manage our cash flow to pay down debt? Great.
Hmm.
If somebody's carrying credit card debt, very first thing, being really aggressive at paying down debt. And by the way, if you're listening to this and debt is a major challenge for you, there's some great resources. One of my favorite resources is Dave Ramsey's stuff.
Hmm.
Like just, Google up Dave Ramsey, listen to some of his podcasts. Really, really,
Yeah,
awesome stuff.
getting the snowball effect in there. Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But oftentimes, people don't have an articulate plan and they've got stuff all over the place.
Hmm.
Trying to come up with that plan, and certainly myself or other financial professionals, if they're collecting a fee, they should be adding value on a holistic
Hmm.
level.
I love that. Yeah, and it's kind of the difference between like an active role and a passive role, right? And I think a lot of people's financial advisors maybe don't even touch base with them every year, right? So just to be more active, having that annual meeting, and maybe more than that as well. But as you were talking there, it reminds me just to integrate this back to some of the fitness um, kind of examples. If someone were to come to me and said, "Hey, I have an 8 minute mile and I want to run a sub 6 minute mile," great. I can detail a full plan that we can get there. Everything's objective. We know a rough timeline of when that's going to happen versus somebody having the intention of, hey, I want to get a 6 minute mile. And they're just going to keep going out on their own running. And maybe they'll get there. And undoubtedly, it'll probably take 10x longer, right?
Yeah.
But so how efficient do you want to be, and being very intentional with that? So
Well,
I love that.
oftentimes, like you hear about people that say, "Well, have you ever invested?" Yeah, I was at my bank once, and they told me a TFSA was a good idea. So I think I put $1,000 into a TFSA once,
Right. Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
And it's like out there
Yep.
in the universe, and it's kind of
Yeah.
like, "Oh, okay."
Yep.
Well, how do we bring that into? It's
Hmm.
kind of like saying, "Oh, I worked out once."
Hmm. Yep.
Okay. Or,
Yep.
but
You know what?
how do we
That's a
bring
good start,
intentionality
but
and purposeful
that's right.
ness to that, right?
That's right. I love it. Yeah. Well said, Ian. Hmm.
Oh, thanks, man, for helping dialogue with me on financial health. It's certainly a key component to helping us move towards a holistic picture.
Hmm. Yeah. My pleasure, man. And well said, my friend.
Thank you. All right. Well, I think that there's an underlining theme that's
Hmm.
really kind of driven this, a lot of our lives. It would be, I would call spiritual health.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And even just to reiterate from the first and second episode, I think this really gives us the pillar and the foundation in which we approach the rest of the world. This gives us the lens, the meaning, the belief, the purpose that we need to um, feel fulfilled and well-being in all the other areas that we've talked about. So,
Yeah. And I think to be clear, like, um, I don't want to speak for you, Brandon, but I know for myself and for yourself, like we're both
mhm.
practicing evangelical Christians.
Yep.
Um, but at the same time, like people I deal with professionally and those that are listening to this, I know
Mhm.
would come at this from a variety of different backgrounds and a variety
Mhm.
of different perspectives.
Mhm.
Even to the point of saying, I think approximately a third of my clients actually come from a Jewish faith,
Mhm.
and so again, not trying to push a spiritual agenda in this conversation.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I think that's very important just to um, remain open minded there. This is our experience and what we've seen and practiced, but we're not limiting that to anybody else. And we obviously respect and cherish anybody's beliefs. So,
So, Brandon, I'm wondering, kind of maybe, I'm wondering if you want to talk to me a little bit about, why spiritual health. You talked about it as your foundation. Wondering maybe you could
mhm.
speak to that. Of, how has it shaped you, and how has it kind of helped ground you in your
Mhm.
pursuits, both mental and physical, or
Mhm.
in in other aspects of your life? How has that spiritual basis been grounding for you?
Yeah. Oh man, the the word grounding might be ironic because I'll go into a story here that when I had a very big career change, I was a pilot and studied aviation, and I was teaching people how to fly airplanes at the time. So commercial
No
pilot.
way. I didn't know that about
You didn't
you.
know that? Oh man, yeah.
No.
So I've done many jobs, my friend, but so even just as you were saying that, yeah, I mean my spiritual health is so important, and this uh, gives me the lens in which allows me to live a meaningful life, a life that is congruent with who I want to be and what I want to do in this world. So much so that I left that career and started into fitness and mental health. So, um, yeah, it's been kind of the North Star for me, whether it's good times or challenging times, and just having that sense of meaning and purpose. I mean, that's the big question, right? Why are we here, and what is this all for? I think gives us a sense of peace when we can answer those questions for ourselves, right?
Yeah. And I think in the age of moral relativism of,
Mm-hmm.
where, there's so many people that'll say, this is, this is true for me because for whatever reason, I
Mm-hmm.
find having that faith backbone for me
Mm-hmm.
is really grounding in the sense of having a really clear moral compass of
That's
what's
right.
right and wrong.
That's right.
Um, how I want to treat others and how
Mm-hmm.
I want to love on others. Really kind of I found has been incredibly grounding for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and kind of as I love that description, that North Star.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that.
It's a story that I think, I've shared previously in our conversation was, you know, um, losing my mom at an early
Mm-hmm.
age.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of relate this to how my experience as a pastor, I remember journeying with so many different people and of hitting a crisis point in their life.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it means, they've lost a loved one or
Mm-hmm.
they've, gone through a divorce or lost a job or, a child is diagnosed with cancer or something
Mm-hmm.
major that's certainly not desired,
Mm-hmm.
it comes at them.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes I find that people who have a faith journey do one of two things.
Mm-hmm.
One is kind of, God, if you're real, you're a crock, and they become very angry
Mm-hmm.
and bitter and resentful and kind of like, oh, I want nothing to do with you.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I'm not trying to preach to that group of people, but I've
Mm-hmm.
certainly seen that over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
And it's heart wrenching because oftentimes they're left in a place of bitterness and pain. And then there's the other side where people start asking some really really good questions like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
God, if you're real, um what part do you have to play in this? What
Mm-hmm.
where are you at in my journey?
Mm-hmm.
How could you be a part of my journey? What it's almost like understanding your story and maybe understanding God's story, and how do those
Mm-hmm.
two stories intersect and
That's right.
help provide clarity and meaning and value and
Yeah.
purpose in one's
Mm-hmm.
life.
Yeah. No, I love that, man. And it's so true. Just finding that purpose is so important for all of us. It, as you're talking there, it kind of reminds me of the uh, the superhero versus villain kind of approach, right? Where you probably heard this metaphor, but um, the world hurts both in the same way. And the difference between a villain is say, well, the world hurt me, I'm going to hurt the world. Screw everybody else. And the superhero says, well, the world hurt me, and you know what? I'm going to turn around and not let people feel that way.
Mhm.
So I think it's the spiritual lens allows us to again adjust to the North Star with the morals and who we want to be, um, but allows us to see things from a different perspective.
Anytime I talk to somebody about charitable giving and where they've kind of made some significant impact in some way,
Mm-hmm.
shape, or form, either through financial resources or other,
Mm-hmm.
it oftentimes comes back to a very deep place, a very spiritual place
Mm-hmm.
where they come and they have this deep sense of their reason of why. Why are
Right.
they doing what they're doing?
Hmm.
And it's very powerful, and
Hmm.
it's it's a huge game changer of helping people get crystal clear on what they're doing and why they're doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And even as a therapist, I think it's important to recognize that because we all have a belief system, whether we realize it or not, and to be very explicit with that and question that and find what is congruent with what you believe is important.
Yeah, there's a, and again, I promise this is the most I'm going to get biblical on you, but there's a Bible verse that's in the New Testament from the Gospel of John 10:10, and Jesus is quoted saying, "The thief's purpose is to steal, kill, and destroy." So
Mm-hmm.
you could translate that in terms of the devil's purpose or the world's purpose is to steal, kill, and destroy. The way I kind of settle with that is like, man, if you allow this world to do it, it will suck the life out of you.
Oh yeah.
But Jesus declares, "My purpose is to bring life in its fullness."
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
want life, man.
Mm-hmm.
I want life for
Mm-hmm.
everything it can offer.
Absolutely.
And so when
Yeah.
I think about my business, when I think about my spiritual health, my physical health, my financial
Mm-hmm.
health,
Mm-hmm.
my family, I want life,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to do it with excellence.
Mm-hmm.
And really, it comes back down to that. Okay, a question I ask every day is,
Mm-hmm.
okay, God, give me the strength to be faithful today,
Mm-hmm.
whatever
Right.
that means,
Yeah.
whatever comes across my path.
Mm-hmm.
Give me the strength to be faithful today.
Mm-hmm. Yep. One day at a time. Yep.
Any closing thoughts from you, my friend?
Yeah. No, I think this is fantastic, man. And yeah, closing thoughts. I think I would just encourage everybody to question, search, meditate, find um, what that is for you, and rather than just kind of this apathetic coma that we talked about earlier in the series, put some work in, right, and really be intentional here. And I think it gives us a sense of meaning for the hard times, and it's inevitable. We're going to go through storms in our life. But what it gives us this perspective of what does losing your mom, like when you're talking about that, Ian, what did that do for you? I mean, talk about empathy, gratitude, resilience, all these things that you've been able to grow in. And we can see that God has been shaping you, at least from our perspective, God has been shaping you to do his works. So I'd encourage everyone just to, yeah, don't sleep on this question.
Brandon, on behalf of myself and everyone here at Ardill Group, I just want to say thank you. Thanks for taking the time
Mhm.
to kind of be a guest on a series of episodes here. You're a great guy, and certainly if somebody wants to look you up professionally speaking, we'll share that in the show notes. But while I got you here, if somebody wanted to reach out to you, if they wanted to kind of learn more about what it means to be connected with Brandon professionally, how
Yeah.
might they go about doing that?
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, online works. Crump B Psych is my handle, and or looking up our business name is Meadowbrook Counseling and Healthcare Associates. So we're based out of Markham, Ontario, and Mount Albert, Ontario. So one of those two avenues, and I'd be more than happy to connect with anybody. And thank you for having me, Ian. This has been a blast, man. I love catching up and chatting over all these topics with you.
Uh, Always, it's
Yep.
I can never run out of things to talk about with you, my friend.
Likewise, right back at you, man.
All the best, Brandon, and we'll catch you soon.
Cheers, dude.